what was in front of them and the opportunity. And so they went after it, with a desperate attitude every day, whether it was off the field or on the field. So they really kind of closed that gap in true lack of not starting. But I do think that we played a lot of guys in 14, and I think it paid off as a result, going into 15 with all those losses. This year, not as much as experience. Again, I'd take experience over talent any day. When guys don't run themselves out of position, they're where they're supposed to be, they understand the standard, they don't get overwhelmed by the moment when they've been there, done that. And so, you can't replicate that, outside of actual playing. And so, where we'll be, we'll see. But we do have a group of guys. I think they've had a good spring. They've been hungry, really coachable, to a certain point even scared, which is, scared from, really focused and, paying attention. And it's not the same old, so to speak. When you have a bunch of veteran guys late in the spring, things can taper off and they lose that edge. So this has been a group of guys that, particularly all of our young guys, that they come hungry and willing to learn and really coachable. So it's been kind of fun that way.
What is your defensive philosophy heading into this season? And does that philosophy change from year to year based on the talent available?
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, what you can get away with and what you can't, maybe, because we're a team. So, what you feel like, because you got to complement each other. That's what the best teams do. And so if our offense is able to score 70 a game, then we can be super aggressive as one approach, or you can, play drop 8 every snap, and that's not really our style, to drop 8. But again, I think once you get to the season, into fall camp, and you really have a really good feel of what's in your toolbox, and what guys' strengths and weaknesses are, and what the issues that you might have to cover up, and you try to play to your strengths and build a system and a philosophy within your system, and kind of play to the strengths of the system based on what your players can do. And really, right now, you don't really know, but I think every year can be a little bit different, as a result.
Who are some of the impact players for this defense this year? I think it's possible.
Well, the guys that have to play well, obviously are guys that have played well in the past and are capable of playing at a very high level, and that's Carlos up front, and Ben Mulware at the second level, and Cordray. And but again, if they're not respecting the process, and they're going to get exposed. But I do think the youthfulness up front, and a guy like a Christian Wilkins, or a hungry young player like Dexter, or again a guy that's still ready to prove he belongs in a Scott Pagano, have brought the best out of Carlos. And and I think we got enough players at linebacker surrounding Ben that are really hungry to prove that they belong as well. And Ben takes great pride. He cares a great deal about the team and about our performance day in and day out, and he knows how to work and loves the grind. So Ben's an easy guy to follow, and he kind of sets that tempo. And in the back end, again, we'll see. There's a bunch of guys that haven't played back there, and need Cordray, who's been real quiet, to really step up. And I do think a guy like Jadar believes that he's earned this opportunity, and I would agree. He's played a whole bunch of winning football for us, and has invested a lot. And I do think that Van's a guy that, again, he's a coach's kid. He understands how to play the game. When he had his opportunities, he played pretty well. Considered he's a true freshman a year ago, but he's got ice in his veins. I like his makeup and his skill set. Very instinctual player, and he's been really consistent. So, what you got to get from those guys is just more vocal leadership, and how that evolves and that chemistry back there remains to be seen.
Does this team feel younger than other teams that have been here in the past? Just on paper, the freshmen, sophomore.
Yeah, the numbers would validate that, and just we lack experience at a lot of levels. So guys have been playing for their first time. So but there's a youthful, kind of a giddiness and excitement. You can kind of trick them into being excited and competing at a high level day in and day out. When they're young like that, they're very impressionable and easier to really have, to follow you. And so that's one aspect that we have. And I think our older guys are excited about the talent level of the young guys too. And they're excited to see them have opportunities. They know they can help us. So we got a very selfless, the veterans that we do have, the older guys, a real selfless attitude that I like, very good demeanor that way. And sometimes, that's a huge part of the chemistry, moving forward. And where, again, the jealousy is not part of the character of the guys on your, the important guys on your team, and that really transcends to all three phases of the team.
You sense any difference in the culture of self-accountability from the players than maybe a few years ago, just because of the success that you've had in the last couple of years? Does that have like a trickle-down effect?
Well, I think Coach Sweeney does a good job of managing it, year to year, and every year is a little bit different. I think we've had great accountability. Some years it's better than others, but I think overall, if you graded it, I think it's been very strong, a lot of discipline. Sometimes, from year to year you get maybe, certain factions that may be a little bit more selfish, and you try to coach through that and coach it out of them. And sometimes that can be, an issue, but by and large, it hasn't been an issue. And keeping guys focused, that's part of the challenge. And when you're a successful team, maintaining an edge and a focus and an intensity, and being able to eliminate distractions is a big part of your success. Handling adversity is easy, I think, because you can coach players very hard through adversity. And you got their attention, you got humility. One of the hardest things to me to sustain success is handling success. And when you're dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-old guys that, whether they're talking about draft status or, All-Americans or, this next game, you're going to get their A game, and players respecting the game and how you play at a high level, really going against yourself every day is the biggest challenge that you have. And, fighting complacency and fighting, that you've arrived, and again, fighting all the outside chatter, that is a huge challenge. And that's why it's really hard to sustain success. And that's the mark of a great program is enduring success, enduring that grind. And just like last year, talent gets you so far. Teams that are focused, teams with great leadership, teams with great toughness, teams that are hard to satisfy, and I thought we had that really at a very special level in 14, and we were 10-3. I think 10-3, right? But that team right there, man, we had it, and we certainly weren't perfect. I think that goes without saying, but every year's a little bit different, and both that hunger and that attitude, and again, guys being satisfied, and I love coaching players that have a chip on their shoulder, that people have doubted them. And, again, I use a guy in my position, Ben Boulware. Everybody wants to talk about, on the outside looking in, what he can't do, Ben takes it personal, he's got an edge to him. Or again, a guy like a Grady Jarrett, Deshaun Wynn, some of those kind of guys that, you can't give them enough, And so anyway, that being said, just looking at last year, sustaining that grind and staying at a real high pitch week in, week out it's really hard to do. And but that's why the great programs, you use a program like Alabama, that's what they've been able to do better than most people. And what I do love about Coach Sweeney is he doesn't get satisfied as a CEO. A lot of times when you see those programs for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, they really on top of them, but then they just can't maintain it. It usually happens from inside out. And coaches get complacent. Players, that you recruit think that they can just show up and you're going to have success. They don't know that you got work to do. sometimes you can be a victim of your own success, and all of a sudden you chase around all these Johnny 5-stars, and they come in without the same edge. You know, they don't feel like they have to prove as much. They feel like, you know, they're doing you a service, and they're not all the same, trust me. And but you know, they feel like they're doing you a service by coming to your program, and then they're coming there, and who can get me there to the next level the quickest. You know, those guys can, you know, go you know where. You know, you're not going to win very long with a team full of attitudes like that. And so, and again, I'm not taking, you know, some of them come in, and a guy like Trey Lamar that was very, very highly recruited, and he comes in with incredible humility and toughness and work ethic and coachability. And, you know, he got great parenting and he came from a great high school program. But I think when you are able to recruit at a high level, which you don't lose sight of the DNA that you're looking for. And I think you've got to have a team of coaches that value that understand that, and that you're all, you know, pulling in the same direction. And that's not easy to do either, managing that, you know. And Coach Sweeney does a great job keeping us focused on what it takes, and not be afraid to, you know, offer guys, recruit guys, players that maybe, you know, not a lot of other people think a lot of, but we feel like kind of, you know, meet what we're looking for in a player, and you know, mentally and physically. So, you know, but again, when you have great leadership with your best players, a guy like Deshaun, who's got incredible, impeccable character and integrity and humility, it's easier for guys to follow. Or again, for us on defense, you know, use Ben because he's kind of got the loud personality. But he loves to work, loves to grind, and so when I can coach him really, really hard. He accepts it, and so you got to have those kind of guys as the guys are pillars of your program for others to follow to try to maintain.
You ever been part of a staff that's had the entire defensive staff intact for a 4-year period?
I think it's been. I think I have, and you know, that continuity is huge. You know, there's a trust. There's a respect, you know, there's a lot of little things that, you know, we can read each other well and just feed off of each other really well. Something that, again, is hard to replicate. You know, when you have constant turnover, maybe it's a key way to a phrase that you're using in your meeting room. Or again, you know, from a systematic standpoint, you know, guys have answers faster without having to kind of come together again and kind of go through everything again. So continuity is a big thing, and even in recruiting, you know, knowing what, you know, the profile that we're looking for, and then knowing the DNA on your own team and kind of what those needs are. You know, the guy that we recruit at linebacker, you know, moving forward in this class, in the 17 class, you know, we're looking for a specific kind of guy, and because of the roster that we have, and we're all on that same page, you know. And so, again, I think continuity helps that way, big time.
What has been your experience with inexperienced players having to suddenly step up and play a major role? And is there generally enough time to get them, you know, to a high enough level to face a formidable opponent such as, you know, Auburn?
Well, I mean, I think it's all relative to, you know, the teams that you're playing and the rest of your team. Not to be evasive, but you know, experienced or inexperienced players that maybe aren't talented, that's a super bad combination, you know, to have. And but I do think that we have intelligent young players that are inexperienced and then talented, and so I think that they're maturing at a more rapid pace than maybe normal guys. But there's growing pains, you know. There's doesn't have to be real extreme or real noticeable. You look at a guy like Mitch Hyatt, real talented, inexperienced guy in a very critical position, and you know, I'm sure he wasn't perfect, but he played really, really well. But he's a guy that knows how to work, is super coachable, very, very intelligent, and so wasn't really overwhelmed, you know. And so every guy's a little bit different, and as we move forward, and you know, we'll get into the season, you know, we'll see some inexperience from here to there, hopefully less as opposed to more, but show up on Saturdays. But you know, the DNs, you know, understanding, you know, blocking schemes and the difference between a run and a pass and a play action, feeling a screen, you know, knowing what to do on his own read, not taking, you know, the dive when they're not supposed to, just little things like that, you know, a seasoned veteran or somebody that's played a bunch has had a whole bunch of reps because they've been there longer. That pays off in those situations. So getting those guys to grow up quickly, you know, that's why having a guy like Christian that can get out there and play at a high level helps, because even though he played D-tackle, you know, he's not overwhelmed with verbiage and schemes and slide protection and things like that. He understands it's the same thing for me out here at a 5 technique that it was as a 3. So,
Guys, I gotta let him go. We could make dinner.
Thank you, Coach.